Well, guys, I apologize for the lovely sound of my dishwasher washing dishes in the background. We got to get started getting into like exactly how to create this character. And it's 10 o'clock. I'm a little sleepy, so if I'm a little slow, I'm sorry. It's been a long day. I want to get this done for you guys, though. So, since this is not a painting class, which, whatever, it's okay, you know, we're gonna do. I think, like in the weapon design, we started off with a thumbnail, but I think creating a weapon thumbnail is probably a little bit easier for you guys than drawing the human form. I mean, really, drawing the human form requires years of. No, I don't know. That's being pretentious. You know, it takes a while. You've got to takes hours and hours of study, right, to accurately draw the human form, and I can't offer that level of instruction in this class, and nor will you pick it up that quickly. Some of you might. I shouldn't do that. Shouldn't assume that much, but nevertheless, I think we're not going to be able to have you guys draw these characters. So typically, what I would do is we would, it's a fairly typical process for a lot of concept artists to actually work in silhouette first. So I just thought I'd discuss it so you understand the concept, and it's similar to. You do it for the same reason that I talked about with those with the weapon design. Is you're looking to silhouette is still the most fundamental design element. Is the shape, the silhouette, or the shape of the outline of the thing you're making, and it provokes emotion. We talked about shape language, right? And shape language is in, I think, everything. I don't know, that's a pretty categorical statement, but I'd be willing to bet some money on that everything has shape language. I don't know if it's visual. Everything's visual. Maybe electron probability clouds don't have shape language. I don't know. But certainly the bigger physical world has everything, that's visual has a shape. And so if you're really at the beginning of most production processes, when you're starting to conceive of what things might look like, you're going to shape language and silhouettes is a good way to kind of get at what a thing might look like, depending on sort of how it's described in the script or sort of how it's described in the game design document. Like I said, these things start out as written descriptions, and nobody's seen nobody has seen these, whatever it is that's being described. I mean, it's in the head of some author, right? The script writer, the game designer. It's in their head. They write it down, but it's got to be tool. But it's got to be visualized at some point. It's got to be expressed. That written description has to be expressed visually at some point. And so that's really as a concept artist. That's the job of a concept artist, is to take that written description and interpret that, which you guys have already, hopefully gone through that module already and sort of learned a little bit about taking the written word and converting it into a visual format. Right? His feet look stupid. Well, maybe he's got big boots. Aha, yes, we'll do boots. Big, fat, clunky. He's a little knock-knee. Anyway, these are kind of, I'm thinking Na'vi here, but this is not a Na'vi warrior. So Anyway, so silhouette, yeah, I'm digressing just ever so slightly here. Silhouette works in shape language and thinking in shape as design, just your most fundamental element, is important, including character design. But like I said, you guys aren't good enough to, some of you, maybe some will, but most of you I don't think are good enough to be drawing human figures at the moment. But we want to introduce some character design concepts. I want to get you into Photoshop, you know, as it relates to characters. So we're going to figure out a way to get you kind of into character design without actually having to take a figure drawing class. Crazy, huh? But I think I can do it. So we're going to use photo collage almost exclusively in this assignment. So the first thing I want to do is, okay, so hopefully you guys have already looked at, already gone through the style guide, the avatar style guide, so I don't need to sort of repeat that. Although repetition is a helpful pedagogical tool, I think I don't know that it's really required in this case. So, but I am going to grab, like I did with the other assignment, I'm going to grab reference images and stick them on the page with my design because it's just easier to look at. It's just more efficient. So I need to invoke a web browser here and go to our Pinterest page. If I can. Well, that's a nice weapon. Yeah, I'll save that. That is a good looking weapon right there, man. That looks real right there. That looks real. That's a Halo? Halo. Wow, that's a nice design. What else we got going here? Good stuff. Some good stuff. That's like a Taylor Crane bowl. Ooh. Good stuff. I could spend too much time, just messing around with it. All right, so let's just go. I'm just going to go to our avatar style guide. Right there. And I want to grab a Na'vi warrior. I'm going to do a male. I don't know, female. I don't really care. Let's do male. I'll just do male. So right click. Let's copy. Can I copy this thing? I copy. Just paste that in, maybe. Control D. There we go. And anyway, I want a full body shot. And guys, when you're looking up reference too, there's a lot of fan art and some really decent fan art out there, but let's use photography either right from our style guide Pinterest page here or photography from the web, but it's got to be photography from the movie. I'll have some full body shots, I think I did, but I did. Of our Na'vi warrior. Why are we having to think here? What is going on? Come on, give me some full body stuff. It's kind of. I'm going to take this one anyway. Just for reference sake. It's the same color space. Maybe I can. Oh, that's not bad. That might be. It looks like production art to me. I'm going to say this. It's a style guide. That looks like a real production art. Cool comic book there. So this is a good one. I'll just use this. All right. Yeah, that's production art. That's from the movie. Good. Nice. Nice. All right, so that'll be really super helpful. Okay, so they're tall and slender, super tall critters. They have, I think, she's got 4 fingers. He's got 5. I never noticed that. So he's got human fingers. She's got Na'vi fingers. I think I'm going to do a guy. Yeah. So we've got to find reference, and not reference, rather actual um, actual source photography. We're going to be using source photography, and you're going to have a hard time, but you're going to want to find source photography that's at a high enough resolution, because you're going to be you're I'm requiring you guys to have a certain file size, right, which is pretty high, and you're going to be photo collaging this. And you will be scaling some stuff up, but you don't want to scale it up too much. You want to scale it up only a little bit if you have to scale it up at all, because in scaling the darn thing up, you are going to lose integrity, image integrity. It's going to get fuzzy. The more you scale that sucker up, the fuzzier it's going to get. What am I looking for? So you want to find high res source material as you can, or you're going to be painting. So this is my, that'd be great if it wasn't so tatted up. Dang, that girl remember. And since, like these Na'vi guys are they don't have a whole lot of clothing, so you're going to probably want to start with a nude model first. And or like something close to nude. And guys, you can do that's a 3D model, but not a bad one. Anyway, what I was going to say is you can do something that has some dynamic pose to it, but don't get too crazy. I just want you guys to get a really good looking Na'vi warrior image. We're not going for dynamic, although we could do dynamic. We're not going for dynamic. So just a nice sort of maybe contrapposto standing pose would be in order. That sort of thing. Yeah, my internet's slow. Stupid slow internet. I don't know, maybe I'll do a girl swinging a sword. Oh, alright. I don't know, see the guy looks like he's lazy, and he's just like lazy dude. That's a great torso though, right? I don't know, maybe I could use that. It's just a doofusy pose. Okay, here we go. This is good. Perfect. I'm gonna take these guys here. That's all, dude. Nice, and it's pretty decent resolution. I don't think I'll lose too much. Okay, so we're gonna paste that guy. It's still kind of small. Oh well, we're gonna lose image resolution. That sucks, but you might have to do a little bit of painting. All right, so let's take this cat out of here. All right, so the first thing I want to do, and honestly, if you guys found a pose that's very similar to this one, or that's a nice, and the guy's got to be well built, right? Or the girl, your character has to be well built. They're obviously very fit creatures. But look at the proportions. So the first thing I want to do is get this guy proportional to the Na'vi. So I think his thighs are going to have to increase in size. It's almost like the thighs are the long part, and the mid torso. So lasso tool, L for lasso. I'm just selecting right about at the knee, and then I'm going to. He's got his shorts on, which is fine. I'll paint those out. Sorry guys, I need to enunciate. What I am going to do, also I think I'm going to compensate. Also, let's see, I've got to get that torso. These forearms get crazy long too, so what I think I can do is sort of chop him off right here, and I'm using my lasso tool. Remember, you can have the freeform lasso tool active, but if you keep your finger on the Alt key, you can immediately toggle the point-to-point lasso by just tapping point-to-point. If you want to go freeform, you just keep your stylus, on the tablet there. Shift will add to the selection. I didn't realize I was just leaving it. And I'm just going to bring this down here too because I want to elongate that forearm. And don't fret, we'll fix that too. And the torso is going to elongate. Okay. I'm just going to clean up the silhouette on these shorts here so that it's more. Oh, I erased his hand. Just erasing that out. And I might. Now, you guys without a pen, you guys that don't have pens, you're just going to have to use your mouse to sort of do your best job of painting this in. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to ding you for it because I can't require a tablet, but just do your best. Get that painted in there. I'm just going to flesh tone it. If you, in other words, if you've got I would start with if you can find a nude that's you know. And by the way, guys, cover them up. Okay, I don't, you know, just put the costume on them. But since they're half naked anyway, you're going to have probably better off starting with a nude. This guy just happens to have shorts, which is good because I don't want to embarrass myself painting on a naked person in front of you guys. All right, so now I want to stretch this stuff out. So I've got, that's probably a pretty good Navi proportion. So what I'm going to do is grab this and I'm going to just stretch it down. So I'm going to hit Control H to hide my selection marquee and hit Control T to invoke my transform gizmo, and I'm just going to grab that control point down at the bottom center. And as long as I hold my finger on control while I'm adjusting this transform gizmo, I can dynamically and sort of freeform this selection as long as I have my finger on the control key while I grab these control points. Look at that. See, you almost, there's a little bit of a goofiness there. I can actually just sort of sample the color there. Deselect, paint that out. Okay. Yeah. Clean that up a little bit more too. Alas, this was low res photo. You know, guys, I'm starting to think I'm not going to, you know, try and get as high res as you can, but you're probably going to have a hard time. If you're in a shop, you could purchase a, you know, the guy, whoever owned the owner of the shop would be paying for high res photography. You guys don't have that. I don't have it. So do your best. Find some do your best to find some high res photography. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same little trick. And if you have to scale it up, scale it up. Anyway, so I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm kind of being strategic where I make this selection. I think this area will remain sort of proportional, a normal proportion. I think this lower part of the guy's abdomen, man, I wish I had abs like that. That's kind of what I want to stretch, and it'll stretch nicely. Again, finger on the control button, control key to freeform this selection. Yeah, it's pretty good. Oh, I got a little bit of a crease there. No worries. Let's. I can just kind of get back in here. Now you're going to have a little bit of weirdness here, so I'm just going to. Again, you guys with the mice, just use your eyedropper tool. But you're going to have to softly. I would also set the hardness of your brush to a softer percentage, maybe down in the 30s, because you want to sort of feather. Oh, shoot. No. You're going to want to sort of, you know, kind of airbrush this sucker in there. It needs to be kind of clear. All right, and I got to save this thing because I haven't saved it. Well, you guys do the proper naming convention. I'm pressed for time. We're all pressed for time, but you guys are going to have to use your naming convention. So use your naming convention. Arr, do as I say, not as I do. All right, I'm just gonna keep sort of stretching body parts here. Now, there's no particular formula to this. I know the tools in Photoshop. I know what they do. You can. There's no necessarily a particularly right way or wrong way. It's whatever way gets you to the best result the quickest. And which could be any number of different ways of doing what you want to do in Photoshop, right? So don't think that whatever I happen to be doing here is the only way to do it. It's just I have a really good knowledge of Photoshop, and I'm just thinking, okay, of all of the tools that Photoshop affords me, which ones are going to get me the result I want the quickest? And so that's why I'm doing this particular, transform technique. And transform tool is a great tool. I mean, it works really well. And I'm just kind of, oh, hello. It's a nice tool. Now, one thing too, I think I'm going to unify the lighting on this. This guy's kind of lit from about 60 different light sources. I want to. You guys will have, hopefully you should have looked at that Dota style guide, I like the way they conceive of sort of a general light. So look at it. See, he's already Navi tall. I think if I was really good, I would just take this picture of Sully here, and I'm gonna cut him out away from the female character. What is her name? I feel embarrassed. I can't remember her name. She was such a strong heroine. I loved her in the show. I don't know who played it, or the actor who played her. Anyway, so I'm going to just take him, stick him down there, hit Control T to transform. Alt will move my pivot point. I want to pivot from his feet. Holding down Alt and Shift to constrain proportion. And I'm just going to scoot him up. And I bet you, man, you know what? I eyeballed him pretty good. His arms are still a little short, but his waist is pretty close, and his knees are almost, yeah, he's pretty good. Even the elbows, the bicep could go a little bit longer. And this guy's a little bit chunkier, but you'll want to find a slender model for this, right? Because I'm going to put this arm on another layer. I'm going to hit Control X and then Control V. That'll place that arm on a separate layer, and that way I can kind of do some non-destructive editing. Now here's a good opportunity, I think, to use Puppet Warp, which is one of my favorite tools. It's super effective. So let's use Puppet Warp to kind of manipulate. I need to get this bicep up here. The forearm length is about right. If I go from wrist to wrist, elbow to elbow, that's pretty darn close enough. What I want to do is get this piece, the bicep needs to go longer. I could just do my transform, and that would probably work. But let me show you guys Puppet Warp because it's kind of cool, and I think it would work well on this. So I've got my selection. I've hidden it, but it's there. And I think it's under, no, it's under Edit. Was it? Yeah, Edit, Puppet Warp. And, Puppet Warp puts this goofy mesh, and what you do is you put these pins in. You tap to add a pin, maybe. There we go. My machine is really, oh, it's because I've got the video capture. Oh, come on. Let's try that again. Image, or Edit, Puppet Warp. Yeah, when I got my video capture software running, it just dogs my machine. And what it does, see how it kind of like, what it does is these little pins allow you to kind of manipulate the mesh. And the mesh corresponds with the pixels on the source image there. And if you click in a place where there's no pin, then it'll add a pin. And if you want to manipulate an existing pin, you just hover over that. And see how stinking awesome you can control this thing? I mean, it's just stinking brilliant. It's like silly putty. It's just great. It's a great tool. I'm not sure if this is in any of those videos I gave you to watch. I hope it is. Because this is a great tool. Once you get that sort of where you want, you hit enter. Now I'm going to go back in here with a very soft brush, right? Set my hardness, and once again just kind of do a little bit of spot surgery by using my brush, and then again Alt. If I hit my Alt key, that will sample color right from my image, which is a really good way to make sure your colors are matching. And I'm just gonna, yeah, that's pretty good. All right, I got my knobby dude. Now I gotta paint out his thigh here, but since I was smart enough to put, you know, this part of his body on a separate layer, I can just really easily come in here and not worry about painting over the arm I just so meticulously created, since the arm is on a separate layer. That is killer, right? That's working pretty good. All right, so I'm going to scoot this guy over on top of my thumbnails that I don't need anymore. Oop, my hand. Just kind of scoot him over. All right, now, so that's good. So we've covered sort of finding photo reference, and I want to darken him. I think I can go ahead and collapse that arm back on there again. I'm going to create a new layer, and I want to non-destructively edit the value of this guy. I need to create a layer mask for my subsequent adjustment layers that will sit above him. And so I'm going to create a selection from existing pixels on that layer. So on the layer where my Caucasian male figure is standing, I'm going to hover over the thumbnail on that layer and hold down my control key. And you'll notice that when I hit my control key, my cursor goes from a little pointy finger to a little pointy finger with a selection marquee around it. That means that now I can click on the layer thumbnail, and it will create a selection from the opacity information of all the pixels that happen to be on that layer. Now I'm going to use that selection to create a mask, a layer mask for this layer 7 here. And whenever you have an active selection going, I think I've already said this, but whatever. When you have an active selection present and you hit the layer mask button, it will create it will mask everything outside of that selection. And so now I can just come in here and I can do whatever the hell I want, and I'm not going to paint outside of the lines, except this looks really bad down here. I think we'll turn him blue, whatever. I already see, and that's not the right color blue, is it? That's too warm of a blue. We need more of an aquamarine blue. That's good, just like that. Look at that. That's about the right kind of blue. He's a little bit, yeah, and so I want to darken down here. So I'm going to use the same. I'm going to create another layer here. I'm sorry, I need to enunciate. I am going to create another layer, and I can now use the pixels in my previous layer mask here, and do the same trick with the control key. Hover over the. Now I'm going to hover. In this case, I'm going to hover over the thumbnail of my mask, my layer mask, and use those pixels to create a selection. Again, I have to hold down the control key to do that. You'll notice that my cursor changes. And I'll click on that, and you'll notice now I have an active selection, and I'm going to use the same trick to create another layer mask, but now on layer 8. And I think I could just group these and call these adjustments. And I can, maybe if I really wanted to get super tidy, I could call this guy dude. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to darken the feet and then kind of lighten, just like it says in the Dota style guide, and I like that. So we're going to, so the blend mode on this one is color. We want to turn that guy, and then to blue, and then this one, the adjustment or the blend mode is going to be multiply, because I want to multiply as a darkening. So yeah, that's a darkening algorithm. And you notice, oh, see, I gotta clean that out of there. Darn it, I hate it when I do stuff like that. I'm just gonna mask that sucker out. Brush. Going to give myself a pointy brush. It's going to be a hard brush, and I'm going to paint in black in here because and that's the reason why I didn't know it was there. Come on. There we go. Oh, yeah. I think I want to do it this way. Yeah. That's a little sloppy. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to erase this out. I'm going to use my lasso tool. And, you know, I'm sorry guys, but if you have a mouse, this is going to be a lot harder to do. It's a lot easier to get a freeform selection like this with a tablet. And I'm going to use that to adjust these masks so they're the same. Alright, I also think I'm going to do the same thing. I gotta just, sorry guys, I can't. This is just gross. So we're going to fix this. This is super boring to watch, I know. But I guess the lesson here is, you know, attention to detail, attention to quality. These little things count, especially in a professional setting. Okay. All right, awesome. Okay, so that's cool. And then I also want the lighting to be a little bit more pronounced. So his highlights are a little bit brighter, and his shadows are a little bit darker than this one, in this source photography. So we're going to do another layer, but this one's going to be an actual adjustment layer. Again, I'm going to create an active selection so I get an active layer mask, and I'm going to go to my adjustment layer drop-down menu, and I'm going to hit curves, and I'm going to push the highlights and shadows. So on the histogram graph here, grabbing that black control point on the black channel, and I'm dragging it this way. That tends to darken things. And I'm going to pop in a control vertex in sort of the middle of the curve and push that up a little bit, but that's a little too bright, I think. And I think we're going to have to come in. I think that's better. All right. Okay, so he's blue. But now we're going to have to do long hair, and it's going to have to be brown. So, I don't know. I think I've been recording for a little too long. Let's go find some hair for this. No, I'm not. We'll do hair in a minute. Let's do some stripes, okay? So, let's do it with let's pretend we're doing it with a mouse. So, active selection, or create an active selection using the technique I did before. We're creating another layer mask. I'm going to set this to color burn, and we got to look at this. You guys got to match this Navi thing. So we're going to just, and I'm going to set the feather radius to 5 because it's not a hard edge, it's like a softy edge. And the dumb thing about this is they got really clever. They made it a little bit darker on the edges and a little bit lighter on the center, so you're going to have to cope with that because this has got to be real. And we're going to, I'm only going to do a couple of these because, man, if you wanted to watch me do this all day long, you'd drive me nuts. And I'm going to fill, I don't like that. I don't like that. Let's just do normal. No, you can't. You guys, I wish you guys had a brush. Well, set your opacity down to like 42% and paint that in like that. I really want it to be multiply. Let's see what multiply does. Yeah, multiply. We're going to use multiply. Yeah. Okay. And what I would just do is sort of get really good at figuring out how those fellows did, those guys and gals did the shapes of those markings. And I think I got about, yeah, kick that in. And yeah, you know, this guy's like some kind of animal critter. So look at that, it's already kind of looking like, it's almost looking like a Navi. I'll do one more right here. Now, because we're working for a very an art director that only accepts excellence, right? I need to make sure the inside of those little tiger stripey thingies are a little bit lighter. So again, I'm going to lasso inside of here, and I'm going to say erase, and I'm going to drop my erase opacity down to about 20%. Now you guys are going to, these percentages are something you're going to have to kind of mess with and dial that in. You can use my settings and they seem to be working, but bottom line is you guys got to get them to work, so that's cool. Let's kind of get that one erased out a little bit. Remember, I have a feather radius on my selection. It's about like a 5. Yeah, there we go. Aha! I think I need to get in here, but that's kind of skinny, so I'm going to drop my feather radius down to 2 because the stripe is a little bit skinnier. If the feather radius is too great on this, it'll just blow outside of my stripe. Oh, I want to erase. I know. Look at that. That's looking pretty cool. I could come in here, maybe erase a little bit more out of here, make it a little bit more noticeable. Yeah, there you go. Cool. That looks killer. Now, he's got brighter highlights and darker shadows. We're going to have to come in and love on this a little bit. I also like the color space on here. We have a little bit of yellow tone. So I think we're gonna introduce a little bit of yellow in there too, but we'll do that in the next couple of videos. We'll do, you know, costuming and hair. I found a really cool video on how to like warp fabric and stuff like that. So follow that, and that'll help you make loincloths and draped necklaces and stuff. But you're gonna have to go online and find all that stuff. But we'll do hair. I'll do a hair and a necklace for you guys on the next video, and we'll cover that. And then we'll get. I'm going to show you how to get into a better color space where you have some. It's not just he doesn't look like Mr. Freeze completely. We've got some warm highlights in here, and we'll also pump up these highlights a little bit brighter so it feels more three-dimensional instead of like somebody sort of did this weird spray paint job on them. You'll notice on this guy that the highlights are almost a much more apparent white value than this sort of lighter value blue. We'll fix that later. Okay.